Maybe he got a little too cozy with some of these birds.
Only explanation I have in where a Fiat Uno could keep up with a Mercedes S280, okay?
It's not that I wouldn't fight Mothman. I would beat the shit out of him.
We're seasoned.
So wait, you mean to tell me they have a festival commemorating the day a man got his shit rocked by an extraterrestrial carrot?
My neighbors across the street, they are not real.
But a pyramid is the most boring shape.
Part Sasquatch, part trickster midget. What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining us in the Conspiracy Kitchen, where we uncover the secret ingredients behind life's daily mysteries. I'm your head chef, Joe, and as always, I'm accompanied by my sous chef, Josh, the Cryptid Killer.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to talk about the Artemis missions. I mean, we just finished Artemis II over the weekend. They came back safely. Historic feat. Furthest anyone's ever gone from Earth in a craft. Right? They went farther than Apollo on their flyby around it on the way back. Excellent feat, right? I'm so interested in this kind of like stuff. Like this, you know me, I'm a space guy, big time space guy, right? So this stuff really interests me.
I've always been a big fan of space exploration. I've always heard the term like, oh, I was born too late to experience like, the cool shit in the 80s. I was too early to experience the future with going to space. So right at that spot where we're starting space exploration for the most part.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, right? Thinking we're probably never going to be able to do it. Never going to be able to leave Earth. I would say, I'm thinking probably towards our later years, there's going to be commercial flights to the moon and stuff, to be honest. But, God, the ticket prices are probably going to be astronomical, right?
Yeah, and by the time we have that, we're going to be too brittle to be allowed.
We won't be allowed to. We'll be too feeble. The G-forces on takeoff will probably disintegrate our bones right in our body, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll be a puddle in the back of the craft, yes.
Because I think right now, you have to know someone and to get to it, but you can do a trip to low Earth orbit, but I think it's still in the millions, and you have to know someone to do it. So
it's outrageous pricing. I've looked into it myself. It's fucking insane how much it costs to do. But who did it recently? It was Katy Perry and some other who gives a shit people.
It was Katy Perry, and they went on Blue Origins. I think it was through Bezos, right?
Oh yeah.
I think it was through Bezos. They went up there four women. I don't remember their. I forgot who. Katy Perry was the one I remember. Yeah, and they went up there and they floated around for a little bit and then they came back.
They were up there for like 11 minutes and they came back, and they're like, "Well, it's cool to be an astronaut." Shut up.
yeah, you're an astronaut. I mean, I think they did go through a grueling training, didn't they? Before they did that, though.
Did they?
Maybe they did. I thought they had to do some kind of training, because I still think you need to. I mean, not like these guys going out to the moon, but a little bit of training.
Yeah, then Katy Perry floating around in space, looking uncomfortably directly into the camera. Awful.
But so if you could scrape the money together, and we could get a GoFundMe even started, and we're able to get tickets to go to low Earth orbit or something, would you go, or would you try to force like a flat earther to go?
Fuck them. I want to go. Let them complain on Earth. I want to go.
I feel like even if you could make them go, they would just say, no, there's a monitor in my visor.
That's the annoying thing about flat earthers. No matter, you could bring them to space. You can put them in space and they'd be like, no, we're not in space. Like, all right, well, can't help you then.
Everything's fake because I say it is.
It's so
basically what it. It's basically
fucking
what they got.
enraging.
Yeah. So for those who don't know the Artemis missions too much, or you, I guess you saw that we launched, but you don't know much about Artemis. The Artemis program is NASA's initiative to bring humans back to the moon but also to establish a sustainable long-term presence there, actually at the lunar South Pole. Kind of like how we have the International Space Station, which actually is going to be deorbited, I think in 2030 or something, and bring that down. They're going to bring it down because they're going to be working on something better. This thing has been up there for a long time, the International Space Station, but they want to have people in low Earth orbit living, and then people living on the moon, and then we can establish, this base, and then what we would do with that is use it as a launch pad for future missions to go to Mars. So you can get a little closer before launching, and then you can launch to Mars with 1/6 the Earth's gravity and no atmosphere to fight, right? So your rockets are way more efficient, and it would take less fuel to launch off the moon towards Mars than off the Earth. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It makes. I think it's flat Earthers say, oh, but whatever. So Artemis 1 happened in 2022. I don't know if you remember that.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 25 days. They tested the the SLS rocket, the space launch system rocket. They tested the Orion spacecraft and ground systems. They tested Orion's performance in deep space, including its heat shield on return. They put mannequins in it and they sent it out, and did orbit of the moon with no to test the new stuff. And a big thing flat earthers say is like, well, or in moon landing deniers, is that they say like, well, if we had this technology in the 60s, why are we testing it? Why do we need to test it and have mannequins? Why can't you just go there? Well, it's a whole new setup, right? It's no longer the Saturn V from the Apollo missions. This is the Artemis and the Orion spacecraft. And the SLS, the Space Launch System, the heavy rocket. Completely different stuff. And the technology is much more advanced in the rocket. So we have to make sure everything functions properly. Especially when it's going through like the Van Allen radiation belts, right? They just don't use reasoning. So it was that mission was highly successful. Orion splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego, just like it did on the second time. It validated systems for crewed flights. Right? They said, everything should be fine. Now, there was a slightly different thing, and they had to change it for Artemis II from Artemis 1. They figured, instead of coming in hot, straight through the atmosphere, at like 22,000 miles per hour, why don't we try to skim it like a stone on, like if you skip a stone on a brook or a lake, to try to slow it down before coming through the atmosphere. Well, they tried it with Artemis 1, obviously unmanned, so they could see if it worked. It didn't really work too well. So they said, fuck it, we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way and come straight through. And that's what they did with Artemis 2 with the people on board. Actually, the skimming it caused more damage and heat charring than it would have just coming through. So then we had Artemis 2, which just launched April 1st. Everyone's like, oh, April Fool's Day. The flat earthers are big on that, right?
Yeah.
It's on April Fool's Day. This was a lunar flyby. We didn't land there. I don't know. They're like, oh, you didn't land on the moon on April Fool's. No, it's not. It's a flyby. It took 10 days. We had, NASA astronauts, right? Reed Wiseman, he was the commander. You had Victor Glover, he was a pilot. Christina Koch, she was a mission specialist, but also became the plumber for when we talk about the toilet. And then we had for some reason, a Canadian Space Agency astronaut on board, Jeremy Hansen. Yeah.
Sorry, can I touch on that?
No, you're good.
When I was reading about this, and they listed all the people, the way they had them listed was Reed Wiseman, Commander, Victor Jerome Glover Jr., Pilot, Christina Koch, Mission Specialist, Jeremy Hansen, Canadian.
Yeah, what was he doing? I guess we were trying to make it all inclusive, right? Bring the Canadians with us.
There had to be a fall guy if things went wrong. Blame him.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Blame it on the Canadian?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Fuck you, guy.
First time a Canadian astronaut was, I guess, towards the moon like that, because we haven't done it since the 72 was the last time we went out there.
The first time a black astronaut, too.
It was the first black astronaut and the first woman, right, to leave low Earth orbit.
Yeah, a lot of history.
A lot of history made with this, with Artemis 2. And hopefully we keep making history when, we go with Artemis 3 and Artemis 4. But Artemis 2 was, again, test Orion's life support. You got to test the propulsion. You got to test the navigation. You got to test the communications, its habitability systems with humans on board, right? Now we got to make sure that with the humans on board, it can, actually function. You don't want to just land on the moon like the flat earthers are trying to say. Just land on it. Well, we got to test all these things. This is a new craft. Every time you make a new model of car, right? So say you have, your Camry. When they make a new generation of Camry, it is tested, right? They don't just throw it out. Oh, we already made a Camry before. This new model, just throw it out there. No, it's new stuff, right? That's what you do with these rockets, especially because if something happens, they're dead. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, the car broke down, we got to figure it out. No, these people are dead if something happens. That's why you test things. Like, use your brain, right? So, again, it's successful. We just saw the touchdown. What was it, Saturday, the touchdown? Or Sunday? Off the coast of San Diego at like 8:03 at night. All crew members reported in good health, and they were returned to Houston. And again, this was the first time humans voyaged beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in 1972. Artemis 3 is planned for 2027. Now, this one, people are thinking going to the moon. It's not. They changed things a little bit. This is to go into low Earth orbit, and they're going to test the rendezvous, the docking, integration operations between the Orion and the HLS vehicles, whether it be the SpaceX Starship HLS or the Blue Moon, Blue Origin Blue Moon spacecraft to see how they integrate, and docking and stuff like that. So then you have to test life support, propulsion, communications in orbit between the two modules. Obviously, you got to make sure everything works. It's similar to how Apollo 9 was. If you remember, they went up there and they, did the lunar module and everything disconnects and reconnect and docking and everything. Same stuff. We have no crew yet announced for that, but that's going to be in 2027. Then 2028 comes. Early 2028 is supposed to come, and this will be the first landing mission on the moon. We will return there since the first time since 72. They'll go up in the Orion to lunar orbit, to a transfer to an HLS, and they'll land at the lunar South Pole. Surface activities will include a 1-week exploration. So instead of being like, I believe it was only a day, right, on the moon, they were only doing like a day, 2 days. Like, I don't even think they were more than a day on the moon with the Apollo missions. We're looking at a 1-week exploration. They're going to be searching for water ice in these permanently shadowed areas, in these, the craters, to see if there's any water ice, because you want oxygen and hydrogen. You can make fuel with that. And the crew return with the lander to the Orion, and then they'll come home. They may also bring the IHAB module with them on this. They haven't figured it out yet, but they want to do that. Bring the IHAB module with us, because then we can begin establishing a long-term base there. And the IHAB is the International Habitation Module. So when you get those on up there, then we can start setting up long-term. So that'll be Artemis 3. That would be something great to see. If we can even set up a base up there, love to see it. Then 4 would be the first lunar mission what am I saying? I just did 4, right? The first lunar mission is number 4. Number 5 would be a second crew lunar landing with expanded capabilities, bringing up more supplies and stuff for a longer surface stay. They're going to try to bring up rovers, and these rovers, they would want to be pressurized to be able to move around, and more, expansion of sustained structures up there. And they were thinking about bringing some kind of robot, like a Tesla robot, so they can leave them up there. They don't have to worry about life support with them, and they can begin building structures to be able to house us from, obviously not having an atmosphere so we can breathe. And then 5 and beyond will be long-term, and even more longer-term, more construction of the habitats and launch pad construction for Mars, and full gateway operations as a staging point for Mars. Because once we set this up, Mars is, 160 times farther than the moon. So once you set this up and then you set up that launch pad to launch to Mars, those people, I think it's a one-way ticket. They're going to be going to Mars to stay.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to come back. I know that there was a one woman astronaut that was talking about, she was, um, or someone who was with NASA. She wasn't an astronaut yet, but she was like young, 18 or 19. She said she was going to be preparing to be one of the people to go, and just never come back, just be a Martian, I guess, for the rest of their life.
How awful.
I don't know if I could do it. As much as I would love to go to Mars, you know what I mean? Like, or any of that out there. Just to see that. One way, though?
Yeah, you go check it out. I don't want to live there. Like, fuck that. I got shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to live there either. But, I mean, it's so far away with our current technology that it might be the only option.
Yeah.
But, I did say Artemis II was a success, right? But it wasn't that it went without issues, if you will, right? Kind of shitty, right?
Well.
And I think we mentioned in our last episode we were going to talk about this, but yeah, for some reason Artemis II, they had, it wasn't like Apollo 13 where they almost died or anything, but Apollo 2 had toilet troubles right off the bat. And that's why I mentioned that our mission specialist, Christina Koch, became a space plumber, if you will. First space plumber in history.
Oh my god. Well, just the fact that the toilet alone cost $30 million to break day one. Like, you just left. Fucking...
Now, with like the flat earthers, I feel like, and the moon landing deniers would all make this say this is all bullshit made up. But why would you make this up, right?
Yeah, if you're doing a historic trip to the moon, you want to look as good as possible. The last thing you want to tell Earth as a whole is, hey, our fucking toilet broke. There's shit everywhere.
And this happened within hours of liftoff. So Christina Koch noticed a blinking fault light on the toilet, and it's kind of, they get fucking fault lights on their toilets even. So I guess they got some technology up there. Well, this wasn't like Apollo, right? Which I'll get into later with the Van Allen radiation belts. So the urine collection fan, which uses airflow to pull liquid into the system, like it pulls it, causes like almost like a vacuum effect, failed to prime properly, and then linked to a controller malfunction. So solid waste, like shit, collection was still worked through suctioned in the bags, but the urine handling was affected. That's the main issue. So at least they were able to defecate, right? If they couldn't defecate, that would be a big problem. The crew had to use a backup Apollo-style urine collection bags. They said reportedly up to maybe 6 hours. Ground teams troubleshot remotely from command center, and the crew, with Koch basically leading the way, resolved the controller fan issue, restoring full operation and priming to the urine collection. And NASA confirmed after the first day that the toilet was good to go. So, and they put up new recommendations on how to prime the urine collection system and run times for the urine collection system. So that was just day one. Right off the bat, you can't piss, or you have to piss in, I guess, a bag, Apollo-style urine bags. But then it's not like it was over. Day 3, a second problem emerged with venting the stored urine. Now the urine's being stored, but they can't vent it into the space. I like how they just throw the urine out the window, right? It's just dumped outside.
I had a thought on that, but continue.
Yeah, so they were thinking the wastewater vent line was clogged, and it was probably likely due to frozen urine in the external nozzles. This caused backing up and reduced venting efficiency, so again, the crew has to switch back to fucking urine bags. The crew reported the issue with the spacecraft was more than halfway to the moon. Mission Control instructed the crew to rotate Orion to put that side of the ship where the venting lines were in to expose it to sunlight, which thawed the ice and partially restored venting. The toilet itself remained operational for use, though the crew fell back on collapsible plastic urine containers. Just to kind of, I guess they're worried about having too much piss in the spacecraft. Now, to me, this should be something I would do. Now, I guess it'll cause all kinds of problems. You probably have to move it. But I guess it also depends on what time of year it is and everything. But maybe have those lines always face the sun. You know what I mean? Even if you have to reroute them. That's me, but I guess that might cost millions of dollars, though, at one point. I'm not sure the construction, the blueprints of the craft, but maybe let's make sure, or even if you just do a new thing where you rotate Orion to expose those lines to sunlight every so often. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just to keep it from freezing up, perhaps.
Well, yeah, my question is this, though. So, apparently, they talked about it like it's a normal thing. So they vent the piss into space, but they keep the shit and they bring it back to Earth to dispose of. Are they worried about littering? Well, it's going into space, and that's what it is. It's empty space. There's nothing there for it to bother. So a few logs floating around isn't going to harm the universe.
We don't know that.
Well, we don't know that, but the only thing I could think of is it floating its way back to Earth and then eventually, flying and hitting someone's house. They're just a big smear of shit in their backyard. That's the only thing I could think of. But who gives a fuck?
Maybe the shit will, because again, like I was saying, you're going away from. So say you vented the shit. It'll probably burn up in the atmosphere though. Yeah. So I guess there wouldn't be much to worry about. But this is the misconception with they think, oh, you're in space, there's no gravity. Earth's gravity is still affecting you. That's why the moon orbits the Earth, because of the gravity. So if you vented out the shit out, I don't know how, unless you launch it at like escape velocity away from the Earth, right? It's going to start going back towards the Earth eventually. But once it hits and, starts speeding up and going through the atmosphere, it's just going to disintegrate.
Yeah.
So why not just send the shit out?
Yeah, and pardon the pun, but who gives a shit? Just kick it out the side. Why do they gotta collect it like it's part of science? It's shit. You ever eat astronaut food? It's not very forgiving.
Unless, is it easier to vent the urine out through these nozzles, but the solid waste is harder to...
Maybe, but...
That's something I'd have to look into. I'm sorry, guys. I have no idea how the shit would be vented out of the ship and why they wouldn't actually send it out. There's tons of space junk out there, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is. Didn't they float a Tesla into space? There's garbage right there. And they actually said that once they
roadster.
Once
the
they
Tesla
unfroze
roadsters out there, yeah.
It's Tesla. It's garbage. Once they unfroze the lines and the piss shot out into space, they described it as a blizzard in space, which is the grossest thing I've ever heard. But I don't know. I feel like they also said that they go through psychological testing for like years at a time to make sure everybody's like, up to snuff. I wish they didn't. And there was one asshole that would just be a little prankster, and he would just float a log at people every now and then just to fuck with them.
Fuck.
That'd be hilarious. Like they're doing an interview and you just see it float through in the background. Oh,
like the Nutella, like that the video of the Nutella floating through.
Yeah,
you saw that?
I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Just have it as a turd.
Just a turd. No, they're interviewing Reed. They're like, "Hey, Reed, there's a Snickers floating by you." Like, that's not a Snickers. Oh. That's Christina playing a joke. No, but no, it's just to to spend all that money on this craft, and then the toilet alone is $30 million for just to break. And oh my God, I don't know. I'm a little annoyed.
Stuff's I guess it's a new craft, right? It's a new ship. The first time the toilet was actually going to be used, obviously the mannequins for Artemis 1 weren't going to use the toilet. So, I mean, shit's going to happen. But hopefully it's corrected for the next trip, right? And they won't have to worry about the toilet breaking. And hopefully they don't worry about anything else breaking. And you can get there, safe and sound. And we can start colonizing the moon and be done with it. And I think we're going to do an episode down the road. We'll talk about other things for why I think, or conspiracies behind what we're trying to do with the moon. I would think militarily it's a great thing to have something on the moon, if you ask me. We already have satellites in space that can do some crazy shit. That's what apparently we did some during the initial Iran invasion. We'd use satellites to disable their anti-aircraft batteries and stuff like that. So if you have something on the moon set up, I can see, unless the Nazis already have a base up there already, then we'll just have to fight them, I guess, to get it. I think our technology might be better than theirs by now, maybe.
Well, they just went by the dark side of the moon, didn't they? You think they just kind of flew by and flipped off the Nazis, like, fuck you?
Yeah, they went out past the moon, and then on the backside, went around it, went out farther than any ship has gone before. They've gone out, the farthest any human's been away from Earth. Farther than the Apollo missions. I guess they flipped them off on the way and came back.
Oh, I like to think that they flew by, and there's just a giant Nazi base, and they're just like in awe, looking down at it, and then they look a little closer, and there's like a Wendy's. I'd be like, wait a minute.
How they shipping the meat up there?
Yeah, wait a goddamn minute.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But so now that the Artemis missions are obviously happening, if you go on X or TikTok, I guess, or even Instagram, the flat earthers themselves, they're coping pretty hard, aren't they?
Oh God, it's fucking enraging.
It's so bad. They think they have this down. They were talking about debunking the whole thing in live time. Just the whole thing's fake. And again, like I think I've said this on the show before, but I still get it. I still get asked this. Well, you guys are a conspiracy podcast, and you guys, talk shit about flat Earth. What's up with that? And I'll tell you what's up with that. It's because flat Earth is the dumbest shit you can ever believe in, right? I'm sorry. My goal in life now is to just rid the world of flat earthers. Like, try to make them see that the world is round and stop with their nonsense, because it gives conspiracy theorists a bad name, because it literally is the only conspiracy that you can just use your goddamn eyeballs and see that it's fake. It is not flat. Everything about it is not flat. The first thing I tell them, the fact that the sun maintains its angular size the entire time it's in the sky, from sunrise to sunset, shows you it's not a local ball of light circling overhead. It's extremely far away. Because if it was local, right, it would get bigger as it got to you, and get smaller as it went away. And it would never touch the ground. It would just float away until you couldn't see it, apparently. It doesn't do that. I don't see it do that. So when you have that kind of just not willing to see anything and just want to believe some nonsense because it's different than the mainstream without actually being able to support it, that's what gives us a bad name. Right, Josh? Like, we want the truth. That's what we say. We're finding the secret ingredients, right? You want the truth. If you're actually care about the truth, you don't blindly believe something because it's a conspiracy, right?
Right. And we were talking about this before we started. The fact that, as a conspiracy theorist, I want to know everything. I want to explore every possibility to find the truth. They blindly, as you said, believe the earth is flat, and as soon as you offer up anything to disprove that, they're closed-minded right away. They're like, nope, not true, sorry. To be a conspiracy theorist, you got to be open-minded.
Yes, you got to be open. You actually have to be open-minded. They say, well, if you believe in the globe, you're closed-minded. No, I can see it. Like, I genuinely, listen, before we got our best pal, Flat Earth Dave, on the show, before we got him on here and everything, I genuinely was like, all right, let me. We got told it's round. I genuinely never thought of it being flat. Before I did, I'm like, all right, let's see what this is about. Let me see. And then like I went and looked, and no, I was not. Oh, I already have my mind made up. My mind made up. I went and looked and was like, this is impossible on a flat plane. You know what I mean? I tried to do some things. I genuinely wanted to see. Tried to accept it. I couldn't. I could not do it. It comes off as a globe, and they're like, "Oh, you're just biased because you like aliens and space." No, it's there. Look, use your eyes. It's not flat. You know what I mean?
It's it's also just the utter smugness of flat earthers. Anyone you talk to, anyone at all, that's a flat earther. Immediately, they're like, "Well, you're a globetard. You don't know any better. You need to do your math, and you gotta buy my app, and you gotta do things." But
What
it's
was that?
just
What was that?
don't worry about it.
What
But
was that?
well, but no, they're all like that. None of them would be like, "Hey, man, you should check this out." They're like, "No, this is what it is. You're absolutely wrong. This is how." Like, shut the fuck up. It's irritating.
You were literally rejecting every single scientific principle there is in the entire universe. You know what I mean? For it to work, you have to reject first gravity. Like gravity can't be real for flat Earth to work, and that's why they say it's not. But it literally is real. Like there's no other way to explain a downward force the way it is. They try to come off, and then if you remember during our interview, he changed it. That's not what they say. They say it's a positively charged dome with a negatively charged ground, causing a downward electrical force. He tried to say, "Oh, it's neutral. The ground is positive, or neutral, and the air is positive." Then there would be no attraction. So that makes no sense either. If that was the case, we could negatively charge something and make it float, right? It don't happen. It doesn't happen. It don't happen. Gravity is the reason things fall. And then if gravity's real, obviously it has to be a ball because everything's going to crush down. It can't be a flat plane. They reject everything. They reject common sense. That's why I do not like them. That's why I have to try to figure out a way to, debunk and prove and stop people from converting over to flat Earth. I have to do it. It's like a calling to me now. I don't know why.
Well, it's just irritating. Like, I hate to harp on the interview thing, but like, we went into it very open-minded. I was like, all right, I want to know everything. Maybe you're right. I'd love to hear it. Right away, just gets into disproving us. All right, well, how far is this mathematically? What are the exact numbers? What is that? And it just goes into trying to confuse us just to make us
Yeah.
look stupid. And that's what every flat earther does. They try to make you look stupid. And it's irritating. You can't have a regular conversation. And
No.
it's all closed-minded bullshit.
And yeah, if you guys didn't listen to it, you can go back and listen to it. But basically, whenever I would start to make a point, right, I was cut off.
Yeah.
Instantly cut off. I would let him finish his points, right? He wouldn't let it happen the other way around because you don't want the point to get across and people be like, wait, that makes sense. You know what I mean? When they start talking about, it's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, but you can't see it. No, it's spinning at once per day. Stop using the 1,000 miles per hour. Linear speed does not equate to revolution. It's revolving. You know what I mean? On your dash, when your engine's running, it doesn't give your engine speed in miles per hour. It gives your engine speeds in RPM because it's revolving. Crank's revolving. You don't use that. So it's once per day. Then when they're like, oh, you can't feel it, but it's making this sharpest turn. It's going 66,600 miles per hour around the sun, and it's turning and wobbling. It's like, okay, well, it takes a year to go around the sun, right? So that's 365 days. A circle is 360 degrees, but so around it, say 360 days. Give it a little, shorter. If it's veering off, I want you to get in a car, drive straight for one day, and then turn 1 degree over that day. All right, don't drive straight for the day, but take 1 degree of a turn over the entire day. Are you going to tell you change direction? Exactly. But they just try to throw the biggest thing the flat earthers try to do is they try to throw scary numbers at you, right? They try to bombard you with these numbers, and they do it rapid fire. So anyone out there who wants to actually try to talk to a flat earther and stuff, you're gonna have to. That's what you're gonna have to deal with first. If anyone's out there is willing or wants to know how to combat a flat earther, if they have a flat earther's friend and they know it's not flat and they want to try to get through them, you got to combat the big scary number game that they try to do with all these numbers, boom, boom, boom. And you can't let them rapid fire nonsense at you. You have to break each thing down. And talking about flat earthers too, like that interview literally made me even less of a flat earther than before, because it just seemed like he was trying to be deceptive, right?
Irritating.
And someone else came around. I was talking to Josh about it before. He's a moon landing denier, and his name is Bart Sibrel. I don't know if you guys have heard of him before. He's likes to be kind of like Flat Earth Dave, where he wants to plug his shit. But I have a clip here. I was going to let Josh hear it, so you can make your mind up about this guy first. He's saying the CIA tried to kill him, and
I hope he's okay.
because he knows the moon landing's fake. And here, I'll let you listen to him, and then you can be the judge. First, I'll let you listen to this first clip. I'll let you be the judge if you think this guy's sane. And then we can move on to another clip that he has of him talking. But this guy, again, like, I guess if you're open-minded and you listen and you actually listen to these people, they make you be like, wait, he's a freaking grifter, or he's a fraud. You know what I mean? So here, I'll let you listen to this.
I was literally followed from church that night. They disabled my car as I pulled up alongside of someone following me to get a look at them. My car just died. A military source I have says they zapped it with what do you call it, EMP weapon or whatever. I'm literally being chased on foot by 3 other cars. I hire a cab to drive me with the secret footage to CNN, where surrounded by government agents.
Atlanta, Georgia.
And they drugged me to the point of vomiting with what I presume is truth serum. I escaped their custody. I made my way back to Nashville, and I told the NBC News director I got him because I peed in a cup, and I said, I'm going to prove I was illegally abducted and illegally drugged by the federal government. And so I gave it to a friend to put in a lab in his name. And after we met for lunch a few days later, I said, well, what are the lab results? I'm going to prove I was drugged by this exotic drug. He says, well, there was a problem at the lab. And I'm like, well, what problem? He says, well, they had a break-in over the weekend. And I'm like, well, so what? He says, well, funny thing, the only thing stolen was your urine sample. And so they sent CIA agents actually into the lab over the weekend to remove my urine sample to prove that I had been drugged and interrogated with truth serum.
So, do you believe the guy at all?
Well, it's just, I don't mean to be a dick, but you know how just by hearing someone talk, you could tell how fat they are?
Yeah.
He's telling me he got away on foot. Also, the convenience of them just breaking in and only stealing his piss. It's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
So, yeah, that's Bart Sibrel. He's the #1, moon hoax, the moon landing denier. He calls it the moon hoax, obviously. He says he made a movie. It's called Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. He said it was backed by $1 million by these people who want the truth to come out. If it cost him $1 million to make that movie, there's a problem, because it's literally just bullshit soundtracks over, clips of stuff from, the NASA themselves and everything. And it's pretty terrible. I could probably make something better on the computer in a weekend for free. So you have that. But I'll put it this way. If the CIA wanted him dead, because I don't know if you also know Bart Sibrel was also punched by Neil Armstrong
Oh, that was him. Okay.
That's him. He was punched by Neil Armstrong. He's telling him he's a liar. He won't swear on the Bible that he went to the moon, and he's calling him a liar and a thief. And Neil just punches him right in the face.
Rightfully
There's
so.
that. And then he says, "Oh, I was at interviewing. I guess it was Buzz, or maybe it was Charles. I forgot. Maybe Charles. One of the other astronauts." And he left his mic on them after he was trying to say that, oh yeah, you guys are faked it and all this shit. And he accidentally left the mic in there, and you can hear the one guy go, oh, should we call the CIA and have him whacked? And it's clearly a joke, like they're joking. But he's trying to make it out. See, look, as soon as I leave, they wanted to call the CIA and have me whacked. If I was just some nobody, they wouldn't care. But I'll tell you this. After that stupid story, right, where apparently he was able to outrun 3 vehicles, hail a taxi while the CIA is chasing them, right? Get in a taxi, take the stolen stuff wherever, get abducted again, arrested, interrogated, stuck with quote-unquote truth serum in a CIA detention facility, and then able to escape that, right? Somehow. I don't know if people just escaping CIA custody, and then still get piss in a cup, have a piss stolen. That's insane, right? That's fucking insane, if you ask me. But if the CIA wanted him dead, would he still be alive? I mean, it was like 30 years ago, too, that they wanted him dead, apparently.
No, he wouldn't be alive. So, all right. This story is retarded, first off. So they EMP'd the car he was in. He jumped out of the car. He hailed a cab.
While being chased by 3 CIA officer vehicles, yes.
Yeah, well, being chased by 3 cars. Now, first off, hailing a cab is very hard. These days, you got to call them and they come to you. You can't just wave them down. Second, if the cab's driving and he's waving them down and the cab driver sees 3 cars chasing the guy, they're not going to pick him up. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. But for the sake of argument, let's say that he does. It's like, all right, hey, bud, where you want to go? Picks him up. They're driving. They EMP'd his car. What's to stop them from EMPing the cab?
They can't. I guess they're out of EMPs.
They only had the one-time use,
They only
I
had
guess.
the one. Yeah.
So then this cab driver has to be, I don't know, fucking Vin Diesel to get away from 3 CIA operatives trained in this kind of thing.
Yes.
But he gets away, and he drops them off safely wherever he wants to go, probably somewhere to eat. Then he goes and I'm going to piss in a cup, and then I'm going to give it to a pal. Like,
Well, you forgot when they actually caught him.
Oh,
Somehow they caught him then after all that.
somehow.
Interrogated him, injected him with truth serum. And then he pissed and got away. You know, somehow his ninja skills, able to outsmart and outstrength multiple CIA agents at a CIA detention facility to get away. And then he's like, I'm going to piss in a cup because then they'll test it and they'll find this super secret truth serum in my urine. But again, that doesn't make sense, right? Because you test for things you know, right? So that there would be nothing to test for this super secret truth serum, right? It wouldn't come up. There wouldn't be a test for that thing, right? You don't just blanket and be like, oh, look, there's truth serum in his piss. You know what I mean?
They
You
would have
test
no
for
idea.
drugs.
No idea what it is. It'd be like, oh, your piss is a little green. You should probably eat better. But no, they're not going to be like, hey, someone tried to get you with the truth serum. I just thought you should know. I would keep an eye out, who you hanging out with because they're truth seruming you. No, they're probably just sitting there surprised he didn't piss gravy. It's the most asinine story I've ever heard in my life. It's like, oh, and then conveniently they broke in and they only stole my piss because the CIA's been on to me. Shut up, you fat slob. Sorry.
So that's Bart Sibrel. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan actually asked him, how did you get away from the CIA? How did you escape the CIA? And you could tell he's a fraud, grifting fraud, because what he says to Joe Rogan is, I can't tell you that. You have to buy my book, and you can go get that book from BartSibrel.com.
So he did all that. He ninja skilled his way away from the CIA. They're trying to kill him still, apparently. and he had time to write a book
Yep.
and produce it and sell it online, and they didn't put a fucking bullet in his head. Shut up.
Nope. He's just too slippery for them, I guess.
It's
You
the
know what I
gravy.
mean? And he has, and to top it off, that's not his only like crazy out of the blue nonsense story. He also has this fucking story, which now apparently the government's helping him. Take a listen and see if this makes sense to you, because it doesn't make sense to me.
So they sent in phone company guys to literally yank the wire out of the phone that I was using to call the executive producer, the news director of NBC, and they sent in someone posing as a doctor to have me, transferred to a literal prison for the mentally insane.
I just want to stop right there too. So he was able to escape, maneuver, outsmart CIA agents, but one doctor was able to capture him and bring him to a insane asylum. Just throwing it out there.
So they sent in phone company guys to literally yank the wire out of the phone that I was using to call the executive producer, the news director of NBC, and they sent in someone posing as a doctor to have me, transferred to a literal prison for the mentally insane. And it was during all of these adventures that two guys came in the middle of the night, and they said, "Mr. Sibrel, we want to talk to you." And I'm like, "I'm all ears," but they said, "Not in your room." A mental patient there had left an electronic device in my room. I pointed it out to the, one of the male nurses there. He removed it. And so they took me in the middle of the night, 1:30 in the morning, to, I think, the employee cafeteria. They were wearing hospital scrubs, like nurse scrubs. But the place was so modern, no one there actually wore hospital scrubs. They wore their street clothes. So they guessed wrong. You see, they weren't from that place, but they tried to look like they were, and they made a mistake on their wardrobe choices, right? Mm-hmm. And they were genuinely concerned for my well-being. They said things like, "Mr. Sibrel, we're all rooting for you. You're doing good. Hang in there." And I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. And they asked me, what medicine did they have me on? And then I'm thinking, well, if you work here, wouldn't you know what medicine you have me on? They took my blood pressure. They were generally concerned for me. One of them had on a watch, and it said United States Marines. I think they were with what's called the MCIA, Marine Corps Intelligence Activity Department.
So, I have a question. So, because Marines don't know what they're doing, right? So if these Marines that are apparently in the room with us right now, if they were going undercover to try to save this guy, would they just leave their Marine Corps watch on?
No, they might as well wear a big T-shirt that says "Not a cop." What year was this? Apparently,
before early 2000s. Late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, I was gonna say, because they ripped the phone cord out. The fuck year is this? But no, I guess that actually lines up. But just so people do this thing, they have a tell when they're lying. They overshare information that doesn't matter. So right away he was like, in the beginning of this convoluted bullshit story, he was like, there was a nurse. It was a male nurse. Who gives a shit what the gender was? It was a nurse. But then later on, halfway down the paragraph, he's like, "Oh, then they were in nurses' scrubs." He was a nurse, or this one was a nurse, but he didn't specify the gender that time. So he's oversharing. He's clearly lying. He's pointing out a watch that didn't exist. Oh my god, I get angry. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm kind of aiming for. These people. I want to try to save us actual conspiracy theorists from falling into these kind of like cults, because Flat Earth is a cult, and now Bart Sibrel is trying to make the moon landing denying group a cult. He wants to be their leader, right? And he's trying to get you because he plugs the shit out of his stupid website in every single podcast he's on. He goes nuts. And I kind of want to help us, right? Us actual conspiracy theorists that have open minds and want to question everything. Because, like, I did mention the Flat Earth Dave and everything. It might actually be a good thing that you're here. And it's not because you're trying to show that the Earth's flat, because it's not. It's to try to help us actually think critically. And he took that in some other random bullshit way when I said it. But we need to actually start thinking critically. Like, don't just blindly follow this because it's not the mainstream, but don't just blindly follow the mainstream without actually questioning things. I think healthy skepticism is really good, right? And there's some things that, are done and they're conspiracies. Like, freaking the whole Epstein thing, right, was a conspiracy for how long? It's true. Could have saved a lot of people. This is bullshit. This is trying to take advantage of people like us who want to actually question things, but don't have the ability to sort through. You know what I mean? They just start, this is actually pretty cool. The moon landing's fake. Stick it to the government. Let's try to spread this information. Don't believe everything. You have to actually go in there with an open mind. Don't pretend like every flat earther in the world says, I went in there to debunk it and it opened my eyes and I know the Earth's flat. That's a bullshit lie. It's a lie. They never went in there to debunk flat Earth. They went in there wanting to find a new cult to be a member of. You know what I mean? So, like, this guy, Brett, I want to expose him as, the schmo he is. Just listen to that. If anyone can listen to that interview, or those two, this is from the Danny Jones podcast. If anyone can listen to him talk, and Danny Jones gave him, he fought back a lot about all this crap he talks about the moon, the photos on the moon being fake and all this. It's a good podcast episode to listen to if you want to listen to either one. I think he's on 2 different episodes, 293 and 3 something, not too long ago, in March or December. He was on the podcast with him. Just you can't sit there and listen to that and think the guy's telling the truth. There is no way in hell someone can get away from all these CIA agents and still be alive if the CIA has a hit on them. There's no way.
The CIA had a gun that gave people cancer. That's all I'm going to say. And he got away? Come on.
He got away because he's a ninja. He somehow walked through walls at the detention center, got away, but then some nurse or some doctor picked him up, threw him in a mental asylum, which is probably where he belongs. And somehow 2 Marines that wouldn't observe again, like he's trying to say these guys are from the Marines, right? And if it's some kind of covert op, Marine intelligence department or sector of the Marines, they would investigate, scope out what they're going into, right? They would know the attire of the staff of that building, right? There's no way they wouldn't. That makes no sense. Oh, we just assumed they would wear scrubs and they don't. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about?
It's irritating. Plus, the fact the scrub thing there's no point to it because you're in a facility. If the doctors and nurses, male nurses, wear street clothes or scrubs, you wouldn't notice. I'm sorry. It's like somebody, who never wears a hat finally putting on a hat. You would never pick up on that. So you would be in a mental facility and you would see someone walk by in scrubs. It wouldn't even be on your radar. You would think nothing fucking of it.
Yep.
This whole story makes no sense. Like I said, people who lie love to overshare, which is what he's doing. And it's just fucking irritating. And the flat earth, the moon denying, all that shit, it's very close-minded. And the difference is when people, become flat earthers, it's because they want to be a part of something. They want to be in a group of people that they think is superior. And the difference between them and us is I don't give a fuck about anybody else. I don't give a shit about people. I like to find out things for myself. I like to have an open mind. And I'm in it for my own experience. I'm not in it to make friends. I do like you. You're a good guy. I'm not in it to make friends or be a part of anything. I want the truth, not bullshit. So
Exactly.
There you go.
And that's what we started this podcast on, trying to actually find out the truth, the secret ingredients, like I said before, not blindly following a cult. Because it's what flat earth is. It's a cult. That's what moon denial, these people are. There's so much evidence that we went to the moon. They don't talk about it very enough, that we brought back all those moon rocks, hundreds of pounds of moon rocks, right? And these moon rocks have certain traits that are impossible to have on Earth. The solar wind leaves isotopes in the rock that we don't get here on Earth because we have an atmosphere. And these moon rocks, you can request, a university can request it. If you go to a university, you donate to the university if you want, whatever. You can request NASA send a rock to that university, and you can do your own experiments on it. But they don't talk about the moon rocks because it's just, it shits on their whole story, right? So you can get that. You can experiment on them. These moon rocks are kept in a vacuum sealed box. The one astronaut called them rock boxes. They put them in there while they're on the moon, so that they never touch the human atmosphere for any type of contamination. And then you do experiments on them or whatever, observe them in a university setting where they're also put into some kind of vacuum chamber, I guess, so no contamination happens, and you can go and do it. The big thing they like to talk about the moon, about the rocks, about a rock, I guess you could say, the moon landing denier people, is that the Prime Minister of Holland was given a moon rock by the U.S. ambassador to Holland or something, and after about 20 years or something, it was turned out to be a piece of petrified wood. And it's well documented that it was apparently something happened. It was a whatever, and it was not. They like Brett likes to say, Buzz is the one that gave it to him and claims it was a moon rock, but it wasn't. It wasn't Buzz. It was some random guy, U.S. ambassador to the country, and they like to. That's a big thing they like to put up. But they don't mention all the other moon rocks that we have that you can actually literally do experiments on, test, observe. They just ignore those. That's a big thing. The other thing they like to talk about is I don't know if you've seen the pictures from the moon. They're trying to say, oh, these pictures are fake because the shadows are converging. Have you seen those pictures?
Yeah, I've seen.
So there's a main one that Brett likes to show, and it shows the astronauts standing there and the shadows shooting out in front of them, and then there's a rock, and you see the shadow kind of going inward from the angle of the photography, the camera. So he tries to say that's because it's a local electric light, multiple lights causing those shadows, and he doesn't realize that's impossible. Like a local light behind you would cause shadows to diverge, not converge. They're not going to come together. They're going to look like they're going apart. And then to have it intersect, like he's trying to claim at 90 degrees, which it's not. It's literally not. But he's trying to say it's 90 degrees to each other. When he's saying multiple lights, if that is the case, then there'd be multiple shadows, right? If there's a light behind the observer and then a light to the right of the rock, making it cast a shadow this way, the light behind the observer would make a shadow in front of the rock too, wouldn't it? And have two shadows there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's dumb. Basic knowledge, basic visual reasoning skills, I guess you could say, basic observational skills would show you that that's not possible. It would take a sun 93 million miles away to do that kind of shadowing because they're converging, not diverging. And they're not really, they're parallel, but like railroad tracks in the distance, they look like they come together when they don't. That's the problem. That's why it looks like that. You have that. And then a big thing they like to talk about, and they try to mix the words up. NASA said it before, and Bart purposely cuts off what he's saying. NASA says oh, this is going to be the first time we have people on the moon, and he cuts it right there. And I looked up the actual clip. I don't have it right now with me. I should have got it, but I didn't. But he goes, this is the first time we're going to have people on the moon and in low Earth orbit. So both simultaneously is what the guy's saying. But they're trying to, flat earthers are doing it too. They skew it to try to make it seem like they're saying the first time we're sending people to the moon. Again, which is not right. It's simultaneously in low Earth orbit and the moon. The other thing to talk about is the Van Allen radiation belts. Right? Mm-hmm. Big thing. Flat earthers talk about it. Moon landing deniers talk about it. They're trying to say that you can't go through, you'll die. There's a clip that someone has of some NASA engineer saying that we have to solve these problems with the Van Allen belt before we send people through this portion of space. And they're trying to say, look, yep, they didn't solve it. Never been sent people through there before. It is what it is. But if you actually listen to the guy, he's talking about it affecting electronics on the ship. And I think I talked about this before, because I work in a nuclear, plant a lot with our equipment. This new sensitive computers running CAN bus systems and everything they're very sensitive to any type of change. And when you have, the radiation striking it, it can cause slight errors from the computer seeing different changes in the current that it's not supposed to on a CAN bus circuit or any type of circuit that runs the typically CAN bus. It'll cause errors and not necessarily hurt the people, but if your computer system goes down, then I guess it hurts the people, right? The radiation isn't hurting people. It's hurting them in an indirect way where it's shutting down computers and causing the craft to malfunction, which can lead to people getting hurt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they miscue all this information to try to make it look way worse than it is. And about the Van Allen belts, I actually have... I was going to go into the whole thing and do the math, but I feel like it'd be easier if we use Professor Dave. A lot of flat earthers hate this guy, but he can explain it more detailed than I can. I probably could, but it would take longer. So I feel like if you want to listen to Professor Dave, Josh, he'll explain how it doesn't really, if these radiation doesn't really affect us. And I'll play him up now. Professor Dave on YouTube.
Means his singular remaining claim is that we can't put people in there because of the radiation, a big scary word for scaring people. So let's dismantle this bullshit angle. The Van Allen belt is a two-toroidal zone of charged particles, like high-energy protons, electrons, and so forth. It exists because residual or free-roaming cosmic radiation gets trapped in Earth's magnetic field. It has dense and sparse regions, which are well known from the late 1950s when they were discovered. So NASA scientists specifically chose a low-density path which only limited the exposure time to around 1 hour in the radiation zone. All data related to the biological effects of radiation in the Apollo missions is publicly available. Here is the pertinent information. High-energy particles from the solar wind can be damaging to biological tissue because they can collide with molecules in the body and break bonds, including those in DNA, which can lead to mutations and therefore cell death, cancer, etc. A lethal whole body dose is around 400 to 500 rad without treatment. Rad means radiation absorbed dose, and 1 rad is equal to 100 ergs of energy per gram of biological tissue. So keep that number in mind. To calculate the dose of radiation a person receives, that would be equal to flux times the time duration times the shielding factor. It matters how much radiation is being received and for how long, and how much a person is shielded from it. The inner belt consists of protons. There, the average flux is around 10 to the 4 or 10 to the 5 protons per cubic centimeter per second in the thinner regions. The time spent in this region, as we said, is about an hour, so 3,600 seconds. Then the shielding. That consists of aluminum shielding with a thickness of 7 to 8 millimeters, which gives a shielding factor of around 10 to 100. For 100 mega electron volt protons, the dose conversion is 1 rad being around 6.24 times 10 to the 7 MeV per gram. Now to get the total energy per cubic centimeter, 3.6 times 10 to the 5 protons times 100 MeV equals 3.6 times 10 to the 7 MeV per cubic centimeter. Convert that to rads. 3.6 times 10 to the 7 MeV per gram over 6.24 times 10 to the 7 MeV per gram equals 0.51 rads. What was the lethal dose again? 400 to 500. So we are talking about a factor of 1,000 smaller. Now look at the actual data collected. Apollo 11 received 0.18 rad, a third of the projected value, and an amount equivalent to a few CT scans. So what does that tell you, Barty boy? Not much radiation, huh? Is it some? Is it a non-zero risk? Yeah, one that Apollo astronauts were all aware of, consented to, and none of them got cancer from it ever. Let's see you math your way out of that one, dipshit.
So, Professor Dave, I like him for a lot of his stuff. I don't agree with everything what he says, like on other topics, but his flat Earth stuff is great. His moon landing denial stuff is great. his other, he has other great stuff. I enjoy listening to him. If you guys want to check him out, he's on YouTube. Professor Dave Explains. But yeah, as you can see, they try to make a big deal about radiation going through these Van Allen belts, and I believe even the flat earthers talk about the Van Allen belts. But right there, the guy's got 0.18 rads because they don't understand. They're trying to compare it to like X-rays, and they're trying to say, oh, if you get an X-ray for an hour and a half straight, you'll die. But that's photons. Like this is protons. It's different. These are much larger particles, so that aluminum like just using aluminum will deflect most of them coming in. So you're going to have great shielding, like you just said, the shielding from the aluminum, and then we got 0.18 rads. It's not much at all. Like you said, you go for some CT scans on your, if you're going for see if you still had a brain after being a flat earther, you're not going to die from that. You know what I mean? That another non-starter. I'm trying to systematically debunk all these talking points that these flat earthers are going to come up with from the start of the Artemis mission, or the moon landing deniers, from the start of the Artemis mission to now and into the future. I don't want you guys to fall prey to their trap of, getting you into these other conspiracy, quote unquote, topics that make us actual conspiracy theorists look bad. You know what I mean, Josh?
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm not going to keep coming on here and telling people, I won't say, hey, listen to us. We're telling you everything, the truth. Find out for yourself. Do your own research. I mean, don't stop listening to us. We love having you.
Obviously not, yeah.
Look into shit for yourself. Like, I'm not telling you, to be like, the earth is definitely flat. It's definitely, no, fucking look for yourself. Do your own shit.
Yeah, and we're not like the flat earthers where when you actually start looking for yourself and using, like normal logic, we'll be afraid of that. We'll know if you look for yourself and use regular spatial recognition, spatial reasoning, you will know the earth is round. Like I just said before about just using the sun. It's impossible on a flat plane for the sun to do what it does in the sky. Impossible.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of Flat Earth Dave, I watched him.
Our pal.
Our good pal. I watched him and Mark Sargent. They were streaming the launch when Artemis II took off the other day. And in true fashion, to him, he was picking everything apart, everything he possibly could. So, one of his first questions was, oh, how do they poop? Well, how do you think? You're shitting bags.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, especially stupid. And then they also asked, like, how do they survive the Van Allen radiation and all that? So they did go into that, which we, just learned is retarded for them to ask.
Yep.
And then another thing, they couldn't fathom how these people could be in a confined space for that long without killing each other. This is a point that they harped on for a little bit. They're like, well, they're basically sitting in an SUV for 10 days. And it's like, all right, well, they go through years of training for these exact situations. They go through, stress tests. Every scenario, every argument that could possibly, they go through all of this. So they're prepared. So that's also a dumb thing to think of.
And to add to that, like, you're not just in an SUV going on some boring car ride. You're like in space. You're the final frontier. This is something new. They've never been there before. You know what I mean? Every day there's probably a new view. When the sun isn't, blinding you or whatever, and you're looking away from the sun, imagine what the stars look like. You know what I mean? When you're on the backside of the moon and the sun is hidden from view. That must be one of the most spectacular views you'll ever see in your entire life. you know what I mean? So like, it's not just, there's so much stuff to look at on top of it. There's and also, wondering if the ship's gonna, not fall apart or something like Apollo 13 happened on top of it. I think there's a lot of stuff to keep you distracted from trying to fight each other.
Yeah, I mean, they're not out there getting bored. Like,
Yeah,
they got shit
dude.
to
There's
do.
something. Look at all. Yeah, and they're. It's not like they're sitting there doing nothing. They have to. They're monitoring the gauges, controls, making sure that it's going in the right directory. It's not just sit around and do nothing all day and fight each other. They have jobs to do, right? So you're not gonna. Another thing, they just want to distract from the main thing. You know what I mean? Oh, you can't do that. You can't do this. Blah, 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 blah. Dumb.
It's very dumb, and they're not gonna. They're a close group of people that they sent up there. They're not sending strangers that just met. They've known each other for a very long time. They're used to each other, so it works. Yeah. Another thing, he immediately started picking apart, like, oh, well, look how the ship is shaped. There's a lot of right angles, but it's supposed to go fast. Okay. It's like, what's your point?
All right, so that's another thing, like, they don't understand. There's no atmosphere in space. So you don't need to be aerodynamic because there's nothing to push through. You understand what I'm saying? That on top of everything, like, so they also mention, I don't know if you know, oh my God, it's, Brett also mentioned this. Oh, when the Apollo ship landed, the moon's in the sun is 250 degrees and they ran air conditioning on 4 car batteries to bring the temperature inside the module down to 72 degrees. That's nuts. How could they possibly be able to do that? And, like, they don't understand what temperature and heat is exactly. So temperature is the average energy, and it's the average kinetic energy in a system. If I try to word it that way, so it's how fast the particles are moving in an area. That's energy. Temperature, and then heat is the transfer of it colliding with you. A particle colliding with you, or a surface, is heat transfer. That's how you transfer heat. It has to have particles collide. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so the average temperature, 250 degrees. But there's like 4 particles on the whole fucking moon. So you have to wait for them to actually hit you to raise the temperature. If you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so those particles have to actually collide to raise the temperature of your system. So just because the average temperature is 250 degrees and those particles are whizzing around real fast, there's not enough particles to actually collide and transfer that heat to you. That's why it's easy to keep the module cool at 72 degrees. That's what they try to say about satellites in space. Oh my God, it's 2,500 degrees, and steel melts or aluminum melts at this temperature. So how are there satellites up there? It's impossible. No, there's no particles. There's all right, I shouldn't say that. There's very few particles, and they have to collide to raise the temp to transfer heat. And a good example I have of this, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. If you put your hand in a pot of boiling water, it's going to suck, right? Because it's a liquid, right? A lot of particles. But if you set your oven and you're baking, cookies, and you set the oven at 350, and you open the oven and it's 350 degrees and you reach in there, don't touch the metal because it's a solid, but if you reach in there with your hand and you're just in the air, it doesn't melt your arm off, right? It doesn't really hurt. It just feels hot. Why? Because gas is obviously way less particles than water. The heat transfers less. You don't fucking die. Now, if you grab the fucking steel, there's a lot of particles there. It's going to really, really suck. But the air coming out of the oven isn't melting you to the floor. But it can be 100 and some degrees hotter than the boiling water. It depends on the particle density. That's how heat transfer works. Flat earthers and moon landing deniers don't understand that at all. It just blows my mind. They talk about these things without actually knowing anything about it.
It's enraging. Also enraging. He was counting the camera angles when it took off. So at they want to show it from every angle, so they're switching cameras, and he's counting like 6, 7, 8. Oh, look at all these shots. Look at all these fake. Like, he's saying they're all fake. And then it's in the air. And he's like, well, look at how slow the smoke coming out of it is to the rocket going. That thing's only going like 30 miles an hour. What are you talking about? You know how fast if you're far away from something and it's going as fast as a fucking rocket's going, it's gonna look like it's going slow because you're not right goddamn next to it.
That's yeah. Thank you for bringing that up too. They don't understand apparent motion. They don't get that either. And I tried to explain because I was trying to explain. They're like, "How do you know a star is this far away? It never moves in the sky. You know, how do you know it?" And I was trying to explain parallax, like we can determine this distance to a star by at one time we measure, we look at the star, and then 6 months later we're 100, on the opposite side of the sun, so we know that distance for the base of the triangle. And then we can also then see the distance the stars moved slightly, and that makes a triangle. You make the angle with the triangle, and you do your trigonometry, and you get the distance to the star. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that, and they're like, well, it's barely moving. Fucker, it should be gone out of sight if everything's tossing around and flying. I'm like, dude, and they told me I was retarded for saying this. I said, if you're in a field and there's like a tree or a bush, say right in front of you, and then there's a building about 2 miles away. When you move, that bush looks like it's moving faster than the building because of apparent motion. And they said that's not what happens, and I'm retarded. Can you believe it? Like, they've never driven a vehicle before?
Oh, they got you. Wow.
You know what I'm talking about? You're driving, you look over, and like the bushes like right at the edge of the road, or the trees right at the end of the road, it looks like they're going whipping by you real fast, but that building in the distance it's moving real slow.
Yeah.
It's not hard to see that, but they told me it's not true. That's what they say. That's not true.
I love how they call you retarded and not offer anything.
You're wrong.
Yeah, they offered no information except you're retarded.
You're incorrect.
I love it. No. So he was saying that, and then he was counting the camera angles, and he's like, this is all clearly fake. And then after takeoff, it didn't take long for them to get into space because it's a rocket, and rockets are pretty goddamn fast. So then he was like, oh, that's where they are now, and they just took off. See how fake that is? And I'm like, so you're watching this stream of it happening, and you're like, see, they could fake it because it's TV, and they could show whatever they want. How do you account for the thousands of people that watched it in person?
You can't. What I found funny too, going along with that, is that how NASA showed the rocket going off, and then once it got to a certain distance, they switched to an animated thing to show you the separation. Mm-hmm. They're complaining, oh look, it's already a cartoon. See, you guys are so fake. Look at this. It literally says visualization at the top of the screen. Like, they're not hiding anything. But of course they have. If you want to know. They want to show you as much information as they can. They want to show you the stages breaking apart to, because you don't need this rocket anymore, this booster anymore, to save the weight. They're going to show you a visualization because what are you supposed to launch another fucking rocket next to it and then videotape the other rocket with that rocket to see it come apart? You know what I mean? No, they're going to switch now to a visualization so you can see in detail how everything works mechanically. That's what they do. But they're, it's a cartoon already. NASA's so fake. Even though, like other space agencies are around the world that do the same stuff, that puts, satellites. Russia puts, Sputnik, right? The first satellite in space. That was Russia, not us. Right? They tried to beat us to the moon, but we won. That was the biggest thing, and I think I told you this before we started this. During the Apollo missions, Russia, or the Soviet Union at the time, monitored and tracked the Apollo rocket, which is Apollo 11, all the way to the moon, and monitored the lunar lander landing with radio waves. If we faked it, don't you think our biggest adversary at the time, right? USSR and the US, they hated each other, right? They're in the Cold War in the 60s. Wouldn't they be the first to be like, yo, that's fake?
Yes. Of course they would. They would say right away, hey, you guys are bullshit. Like, you're complete liars. You did not go to the moon. Probably not as calm as I'm saying it. They would yell it in Russian. But yes, that is fact.
They would be ecstatic to be like, no, the U.S. is faking it. See, they can't do it. They suck. We're better than them. We'll get there. They can't. You know what I mean? And the same thing with China, right? Now China would be like, oh, it's a hoax. They would come out and say it. But Bart has another thing for that too. Bart's saying that they both know, and get this. This is what makes no sense to me. And I was thinking about it, like, how does this even work? So China knows. He says he has a friend that's part of the China Space Agency, right? Well, wink, wink, right? And he told him, all anecdotal. We have no idea who this guy is. Told him that they know the Apollo missions were fake, and they don't say anything because they blackmail NASA to get secret tech that Congress will not let China get from the U.S. legally, but they blackmail NASA, so NASA sends them their space tech. And I'm like, well, if NASA couldn't get to the moon, why would China want their shitty-ass space tech if they couldn't even do it? You know what I mean? What sense does that make?
What do they blackmail them with?
That the Apollo missions were fake.
It would never happen. God, it would never happen. You can't blackmail an entire agency, for starters. You would get shot in the face. The U.S. would not allow that to happen. They would send somebody dressed as a nurse with a Marine watch to shoot them in the fucking face. It's just asinine. And I hate these people that go on these shows and they're like, I have a friend. I can't say who, but I have a friend. Anyone could do that.
Yes,
I could do that.
Yes.
Joe, I have a friend that's actually he did go to the moon. He was there last week, and he said this was all bullshit. So I can't say who it is. I can't disclose it, but I do have a friend. It's just so irritating. And then people take it as fact, and they're like, "Oh fuck, this guy's really, he knows what he's talking about." No, he's a fat idiot who said he got away from 3 cars on foot, jumped in a cab, and then pissed truth serum out, and it got stolen. Retard.
Bart Sibrel. Let's plug his website. Just keep plugging it. Dude, like I said, if you guys want to hear how many times he can plug something in 5 seconds, watch him on Joe Rogan. He's insane. And then Joe's like, you sure about all this?
That's the other big difference between us and flat earthers and moon deniers and all that shit. They plug their own bullshit. We plug Ovaltine, something we don't have stake in. We just think you'll like it. So how about that? We're telling you to do your own research on a delicious chocolatey beverage, and they're just trying to make money. So fuck
exactly. You. Do you think they brought Ovaltine with them on the Orion spacecraft?
I'd like to think so, but what's the astronaut drink? Tang or some stupid shit like that?
Fucking Tang, dude.
Is that still around?
Ovaltine. I sent you a picture that I got a new container of Ovaltine. It says immune system support right on it, chock full of vitamins and minerals. It would be probably the best astronaut drink for this mission, right?
Yeah.
It's increasing their immune system. It's going to fight any type of microbial or a virus or bacteria that come. You don't want to be sick on the ship on the way there, and you spread it. It's going to fight that. It's going to give you vitamins and minerals. It's going to make your body, out there in space, with the lower gravity and everything, and being in the spacesuit and everything, it probably, weakens your body a little bit. But those vitamins and minerals fight that muscle atrophy, right, to keep you strong. Right? So yeah. I think it would be the best drink for the astronauts.
Not to mention, if you run out of fuel, you just got to dump some of it in, and you got fuel. You can go anywhere you want.
That ship will run on that. And speaking of fuel, that's another thing those flat earthers fucking fail to recognize or understand. They think you need to burn rocket fuel all the way to the moon. They don't realize how it works. You know what I mean? They don't realize how space works. They don't realize how anything... Well, first of all, they say the rockets can't move in space because there's nothing to push off of. It's not an airplane. It's a rocket. You know what I mean? And then there's a reason they go into orbit. See, they're always like, why doesn't the spaceship just go straight up? Why does it have to curve to the side? What is it doing out there? It's just going into the ocean. No, it's going into Earth's orbit, right? It's going to low Earth orbit. It has to get to 17,500 miles per hour. And then once it gets there, it can orbit the Earth perfectly. So orbit, for those who don't know what orbit is, you're basically free falling towards the Earth, but you're moving laterally fast enough to miss the Earth as you fall towards it, and then you orbit. And then what they did at the last orbit is they used some boosters. They got away from the Earth a little bit. Then they used Earth gravity to come back towards the Earth. And then when they came around the Earth and started to orbit again, as they curved towards the moon, they hit some rocket, they hit some boosters again, and they slingshotted off the Earth. And once you slingshot off and start heading towards the moon, you don't need any rockets. You don't need any type of propulsion system at that point. You're using your momentum because there's no atmosphere to slow you down. There's no drag. The only thing you're working against is gravity. And you need that to slow down when you get towards the moon, so they know exactly how fast they need to be. They don't need to be an escape velocity like all these flat earthers say. They need to be an escape velocity or they can't get there. No. Escape velocity is needed to leave Earth's gravitational influence and not come back. We don't need that. We're going to the moon. So they go out, they slingshot off, they start heading towards the moon, but they slow down as they go because of Earth's gravity. And when they get there, they're at a nice speed and they can orbit the moon. It's not rocket science. And you don't need air to push off of if you're a rocket. Sit on a skateboard, throw a bowling ball, you're going the other way. The nozzle ejects the rocket fuel out the back, and then there's an equal and opposite reaction. The rocket pushes the rocket fuel one way, the rocket fuel pushes the rocket the other way. Easy, simple, done. They don't need a third medium. You understand what I'm saying? Everything can be debunked that they say. It's insane.
They look at it like it's a big Volvo. You just gas it and then throw it in neutral. No.
It's what rockets are made for. Rockets work better in space. They don't need anything to push off of. If you use the equation for thrust, which I fought with a bunch of flat earthers about, atmospheric restriction slows down the effectiveness of a rocket. The two forces are the rocket, or the two masses, you need two masses, the rocket and the jet fuel, or the rocket fuel, the solid rocket fuel that comes out. Then they're like, well, how does fire burn in space? There's no oxygen out there. That's why they have oxidizers on the fucking jet, on the rockets. They pump, you ever heard of an oxidizer? You know what I mean? They have oxygen stored on it to use to make the fire. It's okay. And how is the sun burning if there's no oxygen? Because it's a nuclear fusion reactor. It's not a fire. It's not a bonfire in the space. It's nuclear fusion. That's the other thing they fucking ask all the time. Well, how do you know it's nuclear fusion? Oh my God. How do you know it's a fire? Because, there's so much gravity, it crushes atoms, it fuses them together, and it makes a nuclear reaction. It's what a star is. God damn it.
It's enraging. I can't talk to them anymore because they just they offer nothing.
Well, if we keep going, I could put you here all night. But let us know in the comments or whatever if you want to hear more, maybe debunking on those things. If you want to hear our theories, maybe an upcoming episode of what the Artemis missions are actually for, we can do that too. Or anything else you guys want to hear. Any other conspiracies you want to hear, whether we agree with them or not, we'll talk about them. Mm-hmm. And then, disagree or agree with them. We are open-minded, but we don't just follow blindly anything, and we're not in the cult, the flat earth cult, I like to call it. I remember your one saying here comes the psychobabble.
It's true.
The cult. So, please, guys, I know we've had a hectic schedule with release times. As you know, a lot of things going on, making it harder, but we're sticking here. We keep fighting through. We're still releasing episodes. So please, again, if you're not following us yet on Spotify, follow us on Spotify, follow us on X, follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube. Like I said, we do put the videos on there, but we want to use that for videos later. We put the podcast episodes on there, but we want to use it for videos later. Some other stuff. Once we finally are able to get a working schedule down and my life isn't so hectic and all that. We do want to kind of release some kind of trinket store, right? A little merch store.
Yeah.
Eventually. Probably want to do like a cryptids line because we have the cryptid killer here, right?
Hi.
So do a cryptids line of clothing. Starting with our boy JD, the Jersey Devil, obviously. He's going to have his own t-shirt or sweatshirt, right? Vegetable Man.
Vegetable Man is going to be sweet. Imagine
Vegetable
walking
Man
around,
has to.
him on your chest, Vegetable Man.
Vegetable Man has to. Who else has to have one? Not Champ. I'm not really a fan of Champ. What was the New York cryptid that we have to have on there though?
Hat man needs
tall
a hat.
Tall hat or hat. High hat.
High hat.
Has to be on there. Maybe the Mothman. Let us know. Please, rate us here on Spotify if you listen on Spotify. 5 stars preferably, or if you hate us, 1 star, doesn't matter. Share episodes with family and friends if you like us too. It's a good way to get out there. I know the algorithm's been shitty with us lately because of, again, our release schedule. But we're working on it. We're going to try to get a good one down for you guys. And Hammers, obviously, great listener.
Oh, Hammers. We love you.
We love Hammers. Always commenting. He's a great guy. And everyone else that listens, however, 450 followers or whatever on Spotify. We'd like to take that to 4,500 if we can. So if everyone can just share with a buddy or two, help us grow. We'll get more content out for you. And we'll try to work on getting those episodes down more frequent. I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. 2 times a week, hopefully, at some point. Maybe we'll have our Call of Duty expert.
This fucking guy. The microphone is still in the box that he
told me it
ordered.
was still in the box. It doesn't matter. They don't listen. We can talk shit about them all we want.
I intend to.
We intend to. And again, if you guys enjoy our content and you enjoy listening to Josh's silky voice, he also runs a podcast called the Spooky Swans. You can go check them out. They review horror movies and talk about them. So that's another thing you should check out if you want to continue your day. If we're releasing 1 or 2 a week, it's only 2 hours, right? An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe almost 4, depending. So then you still have all the other time during the week to listen to something. I think the Spooky Swans would be another hour into your day. It's 5. You can get a nice, 1 hour a day listening to us, 1-2 hours a day listening to us. Or at least Josh, anyway.
We just released episode 5, so there you go.
And he released episode 5. You guys should go check it out. Yeah. At least I listened to the Spooky Swans. I've listened to the first 3 episodes, I think. I didn't release 4 and 5, but I'll have to listen to them. Unlike other friends of ours that don't listen to our episodes at all. So, yeah, I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but I'm just trying to, grow. Trying to help us grow. We're all family here.
Yeah. I would love to turn podcasting and internet stuff into a job one day, so I don't have to go back to mine because I hate it. So we're on our way. We're working there.
Yep.
But yeah, so thank you guys. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine to be big and strong like yours truly.
And we'll hopefully see you Friday.
Oh, yeah. Bye.
Later.